Hello and welcome to a new video. Today it is going to be about the Tower of Babel, so let's get right into it. To fully understand the story of the Tower of Babel, we'll need to examine the early family of Noah. The Bible says that Noah had 3 sons. They were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. When the flood occurred, it was only Noah, his wife, his sons, and their wives who were spared. This means that the entire human race started all over again from these couples. This also means you are distantly related to one of these 3 sons of Noah. The descendants of Noah through Shem, Ham, and Japheth probably stayed in the area of Mesopotamia for about 100 years. Because of the flood, many of Noah's family might have worshipped one god. But as man quickly repopulated and began to move around, people got away from the teachings of one god. Of course, there were the Sumerians who worship idols. Idolatry, which is the worship of statues, objects, nature, or man himself, became a way of life for many. It is in this spiritual climate that we find the story of the Tower of Babel in 2242 BC. In Genesis chapter 11 verse 4, it states that man came together to build a city and a tower whose top Genesis chapter 11 verse 4 says that man came together to build a city and a tower whose top is in the heavens and make a name for themselves. A tower back then more than likely resembled a ziggurat like those built in summer. This apparently bothered the Lord that people were growing self-sufficient in their attitudes. They seemed to want to care for themselves and not depend on having a relationship with God. People wanted their own city, their own name, and a huge tower to demonstrate their strength. We also could call that pride. The Bible says the Lord decided to put an end to this pride and rebellion by confusing their language. Up until this time, everyone probably spoke the language that Noah and his sons spoke. Any other language, had they existed before the flood, would have been lost. Genesis 11 verse 7 says, "Come, let us go down and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech." The people then dispersed and quit building that particular city. Because God confused their language and the people dispersed, it was critical to the way humans would forever relate to one another. No longer could they freely communicate. No longer would they be able to trade easily or travel about the land. No longer would men and women be likely to marry someone from another land, because they wouldn't be able to communicate easily. In fact, in the world today, there are about 5,000 languages, with groups of people now isolated from themselves. With groups of people now isolating themselves from others, some distinct genetic differences began to appear. Skin color, eye shape, jaw lines, and noses became more and more pronounced and unique to each group. Before long, different ethnic groups began to develop. Many scholars believe that the different people groups we see today began to develop as far back as the Tower of Babel. Interestingly, the word Babel in Hebrew means confusion. Even more interestingly is the city of Babylon, which springs up later in history in the same place where the Tower of Babel once stood. From there, man also rebelled against God. Today, an ancient tower remains in Babylon that many believe to be the Tower of Babel. And that about wraps it up. See you again in Lesson 9. See you next time. Bye.